But if you come to London, food is actually really great. Alright, cheers. I'm at my local pub and I'm drinking a beer that's called Local as well. Nice and low ABV, only 3.4%. Perfect for the 2 p.m. pints. The other thing that I get asked a lot by my American friends, other than how's the weather in London, is how's the food? Is the food really that bad? And I have just the answer for you based on kind of 10 months that I lived here and based on the observations that I've made about the British food. So I love to walk you through, but before, cheers. So there are 3 main reasons to it. I'll walk you through one by one. The first one is the level of saltiness and sweetness. As you know, anywhere you travel, there's always going to be a relative level of saltiness and sweetness in food, and London happens to be on the very lower spectrum of that. So it has to do with London being in the northern part of the world, right? With the weather being gloomy and cloudy, so you need less kind of seasoning or less stimuli when it comes to salt and sugar. So, and I think that people in the UK really appreciate being able to not have so much sodium intake and just trying to be really healthy with the food. There's sensitivity to that in general. So what you'll notice when you come here is that the food tends to be less seasoned with salt and things are less sweeter in general. So if you're coming from America, for example, it'll taste relatively bland because the food it's not as salty or sweet. For me personally, this is something that I've always preferred, even living in the US. So the transition for me was not a huge leap. But for some, it can be quite shocking. So for example, if you order a fish and chips at a pub like this, the fish itself won't come seasoned. Only the batter will. So you'll find at all restaurants in London a salt and pepper grinder for you to season as you go. And this is really important because it allows you to really take in the inherent flavors of the ingredients and the produce that you're working with. So in the fish and chips example, you really get to enjoy the sweetness of the potato. The British potatoes are amazing here, as well as the brininess of the fish, the flesh of the fish itself, especially if you're having a cod fish and chips. So if you season it too much, then you're not going to be able to enjoy and savor that as much. So that's the first part. The level of sodium, level of sugar, it's generally lower here. It does take a few months for your palate to kind of readjust, to acclimate to the level of salt and sugar here. But once it does, it is phenomenal. You can taste everything in the food that you enjoy. The second reason, UK doesn't get a lot of sun, shouldn't be a surprise to anyone, and therefore a lot of the produce you get here aren't as sweet. So a lot of things are really imported here. So then what is really native here are a lot of the root vegetables, the sweets, the turnips, the beets, and a lot of those are pickled as well for preservation. So you tend to find a lot of root vegetables and pickles here. So there's not a lot of produce that you can work with to produce a world-class cuisine. Italy, Spain, France, they're really well advantaged geographically to have a lot of produce that has a lot of flavors inherently. You don't have to manipulate it as much. So that's part of the reason why. But that also means that you get fantastic pickles here. You get fantastic nuanced dishes that you would not find elsewhere. So I really appreciate being able to learn a lot of new ingredients here, ingredients that you've not seen before, that they do a really good job of manipulating to ensure there's a lot of flavors that come out of it. And because of that, things are typically seasonal here. So it depends on which season you come to the UK, you'll find different types of food here. So don't just kind of think the British cuisine is one thing at a snapshot of travel that you have here. It is quite varied and you'll find multiple things throughout the year. And the third and final reason is probably the perception. I think I've heard that the restaurant scene in London has developed quite a bit in the past 2 decades. So like other food destinations in America, like New York, San Francisco, LA, London also has a plethora of stellar restaurants that you can go to. So it's really maybe like the past image or perception that's been stuck and persisted throughout. But if you come to London, the food is actually really great. My sisters certainly thought so, to their surprise. So again, to recap, it's really the nuance, the subtlety of the flavors here. Same thing with beer. That's why it's kind of like low ABV to not really stimulate your palate so much. The limitations of the produce that you're working with, as well as the perception over the years. Yes, I've really grown to appreciate the really healthy approach to food here and the awareness of how important it is to utilize seasonal produce and food that is not too high in sodium intake and sugar as well. Speaking of sugar, the desserts here are fantastic. I would say it's the best in the world. It's really good. You know, like the one thing that's really positive about the gloomy weather is that it makes you be really stellar with desserts to go with the weather. So you'll find lots of desserts here. Again, seasonal desserts that are just perfect. It's not too sweet. It's using fresh ingredients and you'll really enjoy it. So I hope that helps your understanding of why the British cuisine has such a bad rep. And I hope that clears the air that it really isn't that bad. You just have to readjust, rebalance your palate to really savor it. So there you have it, the 2 biggest questions that I had from my American friends, the weather in London as well as the food. I'm just going to enjoy my pint now, so cheers and see you next time. Bye.